to taxpayers and to homeowners and property owners in Canada, and that at least in Ontario he will consider doing something, but at the moment nothing is being done. Now, I've sent it to all the other parties as well, and they weren't the Conservative, the NDP, the Green Party, you name it, I've sent it to everybody. And so far, not one person is even the least bit concerned. Now, the insurance companies get their money back by increasing their fees. So you see, you don't think you're being affected, but you are. Homeowners did eventually in that 2005 cases regain title to their homes, but the criminals were never charged or found. They're no doubt living the high life in Bahamas or Mediterranean with the millions that they ripped off. These are the properties that my mother and I lost due to secret filing in Canada. And that's on my website. Now, this is my grandmother and my mother and myself, 3 generations. And we're all victims of real estate fraud, property theft, all made rampant because of secret filing. I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't know what it's going to take, but I have done everything humanly possible by one person all by myself with no help from anybody except a retired policeman who did what he could. But his hands were tied, of course, because there's nothing he can do. So cruel sociopathic spouses like my father, just for the sheer pleasure, severed joint tenancy in secret, knowing we would have no spousal protection or right to be notified. And he does it knowing that after he dies, that his spouse, my mom, will not have title to the matrimonial home. And he knew that my brother as executor would steal everything he could, forcing me and my mother years in court after he dies. And he does it for the sadistic pleasure. Oh yes, he did phone me shortly before his death to tell me I'd spend the rest of my life in court. And he was laughing. I mean, that's just how rotten and cruel and a bastard my father was. But I didn't understand what he was saying. And the estate was worth in the excess of $1 million. And like I say, I was forced to sell my home in Wasaga Beach in joint tenancy and sacrifice my beautiful Wasaga Beach lifestyle to rescue her from abject poverty. Her life savings had disappeared. The $80,000 in Dad's bank account disappeared. I took care of her 17 years trying to figure out what happened to her property rights. And then suddenly the City of Sudbury, Ontario Tax Office issued a sale for public auction on our home and properties. My brother, the executor, had pocketed the rental income and not paid the taxes for several years, also in secret. He gave a job to his son at a nice salary and free rent. He refused to cooperate in selling the property, so when we came to sell, it was in duress, well below market value, and that's how we lost our home. Then I paid a lawyer, Trent Faldine, to fight the law, only to discover he had no intentions of completing the affidavit. He just lied to me. He didn't give a damn. He was just bleeding and sucking me dry. Yes. But you see, when you're sick and you're 77 with Parkinsonism disease and your mother's dying, yeah, well, you're a vulnerable victim. And predators like that just hone in for the kill. And Doug McIsaac took me for 300,000 actually. Because I was too sick. I couldn't read or write. I couldn't do anything. So you see, it just snowballs. It just snowballs. Every predators know when you're a victim and you're dysfunctional and you can't protect yourself, and the police won't help to protect you and the laws don't protect you. Well, that's Canada. And then I find out from my new lawyer that I didn't even have the right to file an affidavit against a law, despite it being a criminal law that promotes real estate fraud and property theft. Only a provincial or federal member of parliament has the right to file a private member's bill to get the secret filing ban and bring in new laws to protect us. And they don't even care. So secret filing is robbing the most vulnerable of their homes, young and old alike. Suddenly you discover a stranger, a friend, a loved one has stolen all you own. Facing a futile, corrupt court battle depletes your life savings with no chance of ever recovering your losses, and doomed to become homeless as I did. Is that the kind of democracy you want for your children? Well, I guess so, because I can't get anybody to care. Now, the above stories are all true. Now, some of the photos on my site are Google samples only, because the real people didn't want to be involved. But there's all kinds of people. If only the Marketplace or the Passionate Eye or CBC or somebody would do a documentary, they could easily expose this. And I wouldn't have lost my home. And I wouldn't have lost 18 years of my life. And maybe my mother would still be alive. But these stories are just the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds of thousands every year and billions of dollars every year in Canada that you'll never hear about. I've tried urging all victims of real estate property theft to go and put their stories on my website for free, but nobody wants to do that, and I'm not powerful enough, rich enough, or famous enough to get the kind of media exposure that it would take to force the government to ban these laws. So I'm putting this out for historical purposes in the hopes that someday somebody somewhere will publish the truth. And if by then my websites are gone and I've died, well, at least you'll have this on Google, because Google is forever. Thank you, Google. So getting back to Saskatchewan law, it's the Homestead Act of 1989. It does not allow for secret severance of joint tenancy. Secret filing is banned, number 1. No severance of joint tenancy on the matrimonial home without spousal consent. And a separation or divorce is settled in court just as you would in any normal separation or divorce. Notification in writing on all real estate properties is mandatory law before any changes are made on title. Therefore, it is impossible to steal in secret anyone's matrimonial home or income property rights or commit fraud on an estate in secret. No executor has the right to take ownership title in secret. No executor has the right to control the properties and sell them in secret. So consequently, if an executor ever did do an event occur like that, it's automatically criminal, and the police must lay a charge, and the victim is not required to hire a lawyer and spend decades in civil courts and lose their life savings fighting a lost cause in a court system that's so corrupt they can't win even if they lose. Even if they win, they lose. Now, I have published many stories on YouTube as well as my biography, and it's all there. It is all the truth of what happened to me. The law on my true story of my life story, the language is raw, and therefore it is not for the faint of heart or children. It's restricted. I did it for historical purposes and the future generations to come who will be born like me. I don't expect to live to see justice in my lifetime. And at the moment, I can no longer continue to fight because I'm just too ill. I can no longer control. I have a tumor that's causing nerve damage, and I'm taking paralyzing attacks on a daily basis. I'm only functionally well two days out of the month. And Dan McIsaac takes care of me. He took me off the streets, and so because of him, I'm technically not homeless, but I am homeless because I lost my home. So I hope that I've given you all that you need to know. And God willing, someday, somewhere, somebody will care. I can't bear the thought that women, young mothers, are all going to wind up the victims that I am. It's just sick what's going on in our society. It's just sick. So anyway, sorry that this is so long, but who knows? The life you save may be your own. I don't know. I saw a group of young women at the beach, and in their name, I don't know who they are, but there's all their little babies. Someday, any one of these women will be a victim, like my mother, or a senior in their 90s, like my mother, or any one of their children. As long as our laws continue to be so corrupt, there's absolutely nothing more that I can do. I've done all I can. So you get the government you deserve, people. The rest is up to you. God bless. And please share, because the life you save may be somebody you love.